The week in politics in Nigeria saw the reconciliation of two heavyweights in the main opposition and the reshuffling and strengthening of alliances as the 2023 elections draw closer. The flag bearer of the main opposition, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, sought to mend the rift in the party, finally meeting with Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike on Thursday. Both men resolved to set aside their differences and work together in the overall interest of the party.
Well, Atiku and his counterpart in the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, also firmed up their campaign organizations with the appointment of the managers. Plateau Governor Simon Lalong is the Director General of the APC's Presidential Campaign Council, with former APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole as the deputy. In the PDP, Dino Melaye and Daniel Bwala were chosen as spokesmen for the Atiku campaign. And here is Daniel Bwala on his move from the APC and his new appointment as Atiku's spokesman.
My memory of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a sweet memory, because while I was with him and serving him, he personally promised to make me a presidential spokesman, and it's a position that I believe is of honor that many governors could not secure for any other person. And because of that respect that exists between me and him, I say going into the election, I will never malign his character or his image or his name. And I think that even if you have never worked with someone, I don't think it serves a purpose for a spokesman of any political party or candidate to come to the TV and malign the character of another presidential candidate. Let me tell you something funny. When I was in APC and I got the chance to analyze Atiku Abubakar and Buhari, I discussed issues. And when I was confronted to say something against the character of Atiku, I never did. And some members of APC thought that that kind of professionalism is like you're uplifting the person. And I'm sure that going forward in PDP, because I will not malign the character and name and image of Asiwaju, there may be some people that would think you should have gone hard on him. The way politics is played in Africa. You insult somebody's father and mother and everything. I'm not about that. I'm about issues, and there are enough issues in Nigeria to discuss heading to the election.
Well, glad to hear that you'll be keeping it clean. We need more of that in politics in Nigeria. But it's funny because you've been on this show so many times. I'm sure there's hours and hours of footage of you defending the APC, passionately on everything from insecurity to all kinds of policies, the ban on Twitter, all kinds of policies that have been, generally criticized. But what for you broke the camel's back was this Muslim ticket of all things. Why was that such a deal breaker for you, in spite of the many things that you've managed to overlook and excuse, even publicly? And also, given the fact that you have now made a new home in the PDP and have just joined, and yet you've gotten this really high-profile appointment, do you not have a similar issue with the ethnic balancing in the PDP? Because that too has been called into question as also not been representative of the country, if that is indeed your argument with the Muslim ticket.
So I can deduce 3 points from what you have said, and I'll respond to them sharply. The first one has to do with the things I have said while I was defending APC. I was on TV yesterday. I said I have no regret for everything I said, because we see in part and we prophesy in part. And then to further buttress that point, I supported APC because of Muhammadu Buhari, and because in life, when you made a decision to support someone, you are to project that person. But I am on record, and the evidence is replete. I have never ceased to criticize Muhammadu Buhari, even when I was supporting Muhammadu Buhari. I am an objective person. Now, but secondly, the first time of Muhammadu Buhari and APC, Nigerians went on a referendum on PDP, and they chose a different path, and they gave APC the opportunity. The first 4 years, you are to defend and canvass for APC in the hope that APC would deliver on her promise. I did. When we got into the second term, if you have observed, the character of my defense was quite objective, because I felt that the second term should be a time where you need to show proof of some of the things you say you will do, because we have had enough of, we have inherited this, we have inherited that, PDP is this and PDP that. And in fact, yesterday I said, even if you had gone to the university as a med student by 8 years, you should have been licensed as a medical doctor. Same with lawyer. You go to the faculty, the first year, by 8 years, you should be a full practicing lawyer. And so 8 years is enough time for any political party, in spite of what you inherited or what you were confronted with, to bring out the full image of what you intended. Unfortunately, even though the first few years, in my view, APC did well in the area of anti-corruption and security, but now we have what we call the gift and the curse. Your strength now became your weakness. Because when it comes to insecurity, I need not to say anything for everyone to know that we are worse off now than we were in 2015.
Well, joining us now in the studio are Arise News analysts, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi and Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start with you, Dr. Sam Amadi. You listened to Daniel Bwala there. He's one of those who's been picked as spokespersons to the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, alongside Dino Melaye. What do you make of his take there? Are we about to see politics without bitterness? Or is it a case of politics that lacks character, that lacks ideology? Is that what's playing out? Because, I mean, he's tried to explain, why he left the APC. And now he's a spokesperson for the PDP candidate.
Well, first, I know Bwala a lot. Significantly, we've been together. There's a lawyer. Interestingly, all the spokespersons on both sides, including Festus Keyamo and Musawe, they're all lawyers. But again, back to the question, I think, yes, he is not that kind of person who would hit below the belt. I think he's calm, he's intelligent, and he would try to be less obnoxious and perhaps less offensive. But again, the bigger challenge here, and that's a systemic problem, is the level of contradiction apparent that you would see as we go into this campaign, especially with the kind of question, of course, Arise News anchor, the morning show, asked about flip-flopping. You are here and you are there. One way to explain it, as he tried to explain very well, is that you see in part maybe he has come to a new realization, but it tells a story of unprincipled politics that will play in Nigeria generally. We've seen politicians flip-flop, jump from one place to another. In other jurisdictions, we see politicians move, but they usually move because they have actually changed major ideology. They have changed major view about the economy, about issues. So you were a Republican, and now maybe because of social issues or economic issues, there will be a consistent strain of new views, new ideas. You now sign up, and then the final end of that, the end of that transition, intellectual transition will be you change your party affiliation. But what we see in this part of the world is that because our parties have no grounding in policy, have no grounding in any difference of even strategy and programs, it's people cross based on circumstances. But in his own case, he changed, according to him, because of the Muslim ticket, something significant, being a Christian Northerner. So I think it's going to build on that, But again, I think the contradiction, and by the way, the Nigerian politician has a cynical view about communication. They're not looking at believability, they're not looking at credibility. Oftentimes they look at sound bites and persistence and even recklessness. So you would think that maybe when politicians make their pick on communication directors or spokespersons, they're going to look at credibility, they're going to look at persuasiveness. But often they look at aplomb, they look at sensationalization, they look at, once they see themselves being mentioned regularly, they mistake that for communication. So you're going to see, even Festus Keyamo on the other side, you see persons who are going to carry large, significant moral burden, credibility burden, becoming spokesperson, and the politicians who are appointed will not read deep the level of credibility and persuasiveness that go with this job in elsewhere. So I think he's going to do fine, because look, he's going to blather his way through. He's going to walk through this seeming contradiction. But essentially, he's a smart guy. he is not going to be pugnacious or obnoxious.
All right, Dr. Sam Amadi. Let me bring in Professor Abiodun Adeniyi into the conversation. Campaigns don't officially open till September. When you look at both sides, for the two major political parties that have revealed their spokespersons and campaign DJs, Gina Boala for the PDP, Lalong Kiyamo for the APC. Unforeseen or much expected on your part? And what sort of campaigns are we about to have? Fireworks?
Definitely we should expect fireworks. Yes, they will say that they're going to concentrate on issues, but of course we know how these things play out. At some point it's going to degenerate. And of course if you are looking at the personalities involved in the circumstance, some of them can be fairy, some of them can be theatrical, and some of them can also, be courageous, can be very, very dramatic, In the case of PDP, for instance, yes, to some extent, Boala is a very eloquent person, very rhetorical, and of course, like Amadi said, can be very, very intelligent, but questions will also be asked around the messenger, It's not just about the message, but the quality, the content of character of the messenger. Is the messenger a flip-flopper? Somebody who says it is morning, and of course you have to confirm to check really if we're actually in the morning. So these questions will continue, but it is our politics. Our politics is still one of low quality, and of course the individuals participating in it cannot really be different. But maybe with time we expect to grow out of this, but it is something that we'll continue to live with. And yes, I agree with Amadi as well. That is not too different in the case of the PDP, of the APC. Individuals being appointed, there are questions around them. In the case of Governor of Plateau State, who's been appointed as the DG, we understand that coming against the backdrop of criticism from Northern Christians, and you're now having a prominent Northern Christian as DG. Of course, it is expected to douse some tension. No doubt, Professor Kanyamo is another powerful orator, intelligent person, maybe a good match on the part of APC for the PDP spokesperson. Yeah, we expect some robustness, some vibrancy as the exchanges crystallize in the build-up to the elections. But to expect that it's going to be clean all the way, I have my doubts. It will degenerate at some point, but we'll live with it definitely.
All right, let me bring it back. Sam Amadi, Simon Lalong vows to foster unity in Nigeria as DG of the Bola Tinubu campaign organization. And let me quote what the Deputy Speaker Idris Wase said: a good product needs a great strategist. What do you think of the Lalong pick? What does he bring to the table, and can he really unite Nigeria? And when he says he will unite Nigeria, what does it even say in itself? Is it an indictment of the performance of this administration that he hopes to defend?
Well, of course, Alhaji Ahmed Bola Tinubu, before this government came to power, I think in 2011, wrote a very made a dastard comment about the current president, and says, look, it's going to be divisive and not the kind of character who can bring people together. So the backdrop of all this, I will unite the country, it's actually a communication that the country is disunited. And interestingly, the innuendos are lost on the party. When a ruling party is trying to run for election, it runs on its strength, not on its weakness. And so it's really a kind of contradiction that the party messengers are talking more about the failure of the government in power. In other stable democracy, you have been the open and closed election. Because once you say, I'm going to unify the country, the subtext here is that this country is disunited. And so this candidate is coming to unite. And the question is, who disunited the country? It's actually the ruling party. So I think because this is not a developed polity, people get away with these communicational errors. But again, back to Lalong, I think it's a very smart decision strategically. He proved to be a stable character, managing the Governors Forum, the Northern Governors Forum. The father is a Christian Northerner. He's also a very good politics. The optics of Lalong, being the DG, and DGs are very, very powerful in running campaign, would, to an extent, create the sense of inclusion. And as Elia talked about El-Rufai, for example, a very smart who will come with greater managerial ability, but more divisive. And so I think it's a safe pick. He's a governor, the leader of the Northern Governors Forum. He has built clout. He has shown all these years the capacity to bring people together and to, kind of be moderate, peaceful but effective. So I think it's a good pick. The question then will be, does this position really address the concerns of the Bashirs and the Dogara?
That's a good question.
But it's a strategic move that I think is a smart move here.
All right, talking about optics, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, we saw the rapprochement between Atiku and Governor Nyesom Wike. Somebody called it the ice-breaking meeting, but the ice seems still very, very cold. What did you think about the meeting?
Well, I think it's a welcome development. Ordinarily, we'll have expected that it should have come earlier, but it's okay that it's coming at all. But one thing I want to pick out of it is Governor Wike being somebody that I see as slightly principled, irrespective of what we might think in all of this. Because if we look at other politicians in the past, they would just have taken his experiences as an excuse to leave the party. But he remained committed. He said he's not going to go. Yes, he remained in the party. He called his group together. But even at that, he's not leaving. And of course, saying he's not leaving means that he's still open to reconciliation. And we are seeing that reconciliation happening with the presidential candidate of the party, trying to actually have some rapprochement, kind of fence mending, so that they can have a smooth ride into the election. And of course, do not forget the influence of former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Kana, very influential person, a member of the BOT, very respectable. The meeting held in his house. So next 7 days, they've told us there's going to be some progress. And of course, they've told us as well that that's why there's been a delay in the constitution of their campaign council. So going forward, we expect that someone like a Wike, for instance, given his fact that he's a mobilizer, a very blunt speaking person, obviously courageous, is likely going to play a major role. So if you're going to play a major role in the campaign, it's a major boost for the PDP, as the case could be. But again, we still have some 6 months into the election. We are still going to be lots of drama will still happen, because these things can be very fluid at the end of the day. Right,
Dr. Amadi, do you think the worst is over as far as mending fences for the PDP with the Wike Atiku rapprochement? And also hearing from Atiku that, look, Nigeria cannot make progress without restructuring. What's your take on that? Are we beginning to hear what he has in store for Nigeria if he wins, if he becomes president?
I think it'd be fair to say that Atiku has been consistent around the question of restructuring. The question then is what version of restructuring and what are the substantiation of that concept. There are different ideas, but again, he has been consistent. And I think really nobody who thinks well doesn't know that this country is restructured, whether you look in terms of reconceptualization or in terms of moving from consumption to production according to P2B, or even in terms of decentralizing power or creating incentive structure for local production and management and policy making. So clearly that has been Atiku's position and it's the right one. Again, are we over? Are we seeing the worst? I think yes, PDP have crossed the Rubicon, have cut the corner. What remains now is to stitch up things. You see, they said good fences make good neighbors. So it's good that there's peace, some level of reconciliation, thanks to Professor Jerry Ghana and thanks to the sportsmanship of Atiku himself and of Governor Wike. But the devil is in the details. They now have to sit back and iron out some of the issues and make sure that this is going to be a competitive election. They're going to meet with strong ruling party. So PDP has to be in the best form. And this is not time for self-glory or some kind of egoistic extension. Both Wike, they're overable. I mean, Governor Wike needs to be in PDP. Out of PDP, he's going to be a toast. So it's better everyone pulls together, and I think this new spirit requires more strategic bargaining and crossing the T's. Overall, we are going to look forward to strong campaigns, and now that they're crossing the corner, maybe we should wait for full unfolding of the campaign structure and other issues, so that Nigerians get into September sure that campaigns are not on the ground.
And wait, we shall. Thank you so much. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We're here for all the drama and all the development. Arise News analyst Dr. Sam Amadi and Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who's also a lecturer at the Bayes University. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.